What is up, people? I'm here a little early because there's a patch that came out yesterday. Figure we'll talk about it first. I can stop the video, restart, and we won't lose that much time. It's kind of sizable, meaning there's changes to multiple heroes, multiple items, and some general changes. It shouldn't take me too long because most of them are pretty straightforward, but all the same. So, 7.25C, and I actually love this patch. This is probably one of my favorite patches that's come in a while. I think it's going to benefit me a lot personally, so how can I not like it? When two players pick the same hero in a round, the hero is banned instead, and the round restarts. The reason why this matters is because oftentimes I'll be sitting there, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick Jug, right? It'll let me pick Jug. I'm like, cool. And I'm waiting, timer goes off, and now the time restarts, and I think Jug's a lock, right? But in reality, it didn't really have an indicator that showed you that the other player picked Jug unless I'm looking at what their pick is, and I don't even care. It's too late. I already picked who I picked, you know? And if my mid doesn't want any help with their pick, then I'm just kind of sitting back and whatever. Now, instead of incentivizing people to not think, because you're basically incentivizing people to make a snap judgment, right? To be like, oh, it's my turn, boom. That way you wouldn't get screwed. On top of the fact that, let's just say that, like, if we both want to pick Jug, well, Jug's by example, we both want to pick Medusa, and I pick Medusa first, and then they don't, and they get a chance to repick. They know I picked Medusa. They're going to pick, like, AM or something, and that's going to ruin me. So it sets up a situation in which you could be counterpicked, if I remember correctly how it works. So now instead, it's like, look, if you both pick it, the only fair thing to do is ban the hero and move on, which I think is cool. The all-pick hero selection duration was reduced by 5 seconds because it takes too long. That gets people in the game faster. It makes games end faster. I know it's only by 5 seconds times 5 picks, so 25 seconds, but 25 seconds off of a match, it matters. It just speeds things along. Wards can now always be attacked by the owning player. This means that if you accidentally block a camp, because it says always, it does not say if they're with deniable range. If you accidentally block a camp and you realize it's really, really bad, you can get rid of your own ward. I think that'll change things a lot because it means if you make a mistake that's like really bad, you can be like, ah, crud, like that's not good. So it's kind of a kind of big deal in my opinion. What's up, Substick? The Harpy Stormcrafter mana capacity was reduced by 25. I don't know a lot about the Harpy Stormcrafter. I believe it has the Chain Lightning. I think it's just so you can't spam it as much to push and fight and all that, so it's just weakening that. It does weaken AM's farming because when AM hits the Harpy Stormcrafter, he obviously gets extra damage based on how much mana it has, but that's such a minor thing. Ring of Regen, this is a slew of things got health regen reduced. To, I guess, de-incentivize people from buying one item and just having their health problems solved, especially the early game ones. So Ring of Regen is a... I wouldn't do that, Substick. This used to be an item people would buy as a value pickup and just keep it for most of the game. It would kind of give them the ability to sustain and lane effectively for the entire laning stage. So the fact that it was nerfed by 0.25, as much as that doesn't matter immensely, that's, you know, 1 less health every 4 seconds, and that does end up adding up because, of course, 4 times, what, 15? So 15 less health a minute, I believe. You know, it adds up. It matters. The same thing happened to Soul Ring, where it got a similar reduction. Same thing happened to Headdress, which is an even bigger deal because it's an aura. People buy a Headdress in... That's not true. People buy this for the aura and lane. It already got nerfed once, and now it's nerfed again. Headdress is expensive. It doesn't have any stats on it at all. And now the regen aura is low, making this more of an item that you get when you're buying it for something else, and less just, I have a Headdress because I'm going to lane with it, and that's it, which I love to see, because I don't think this should be an item that you just buy, and that's it. It's just a Headdress for the sake of a Headdress. I hate this. Same thing with Mech getting nerfed. Pipe got nerfed the same way. These are substantial nerfs because this is by point. All 3 of these are by 0.5. So the big org, obviously this is connected, so you could argue this is the same change because they build into each other. But this one, you know, the 0.5 off the auras is a big deal. Bigger than the 0.25, obviously twice as much. But that's really sad for these endgame items. Once you have a mech and once you have a pipe, it really doesn't do as much for your team. Plus, pipe is 200 more expensive now, making it a rather expensive item. It's still really important, and you really can't do without it in a lot of team comps, but Like, I would be sad to have to buy a pipe, to be honest with you. It's so expensive. Especially when a recipe costs a lot. Like, the parts that build into it, which is the Ring of Regen is the reason why this all happens, but the parts that build into it got nerfed, so you can't even get as much benefit on the building process. And then even when you're finished, it's still worse, because the extra money and less regen. Helm of the Dominator got a health regen nerf, pretty substantial at 0.75. It's because this gives you too much regen, to be honest with you. Since it has a passive, it's so much regen. It was just way more than almost anything else gives you, so I think they decided, like, oh, okay, let's bring that back a little bit. Helm is still good in a lot of team comps, but it's definitely not as good. Taras got nerfed because I think they realized this really is cheap. It's a really good, like, efficient item to tank up when you're building into something else, so they made it more expensive last patch. And now it also does less regen, making it like a, whoa, I'm only going to get it if I'm about to build into a Heart. Or I think it builds into Crimson Guard now. I forget. So they're like, okay, let's chill out. Royal Jelly just got its health regen nerf too. I don't know why, honestly, since it's not even a guarantee you get it. It's random, but whatever, it's fine. Necro, the strength was reduced, notably at every level. It's 4, -4, -3, -2, so it's not too bad when you get the level 3 Necro, but it gives you incentive to get the level 3 Necro now, because it starts so low. So now Necro 1 on like a Spectre might still be the right item for the farming speed, but it's going to hurt you in the tankiness department, because you're going to lose 80 health now. You have 80 less health when you buy that Necro 1, so it does matter. There's a little bit of magic resistance that goes into that too. If you're actually a Strength Hero, like Beastmaster or Lycan, you also lose that damage, so that does matter. Vlad's another nerf to its recipe cost. It's so expensive. I'm not going to buy this in, like, anybody. Like, it's okay on a 3rd slot sometimes, but other than that, like, it's too expensive for what it does. Dust is cheaper. This is a huge change. I love this change. Invis Heroes be damned. And it's not even a big change, but the 10 reduction just means it's easier for supports to get the dust and just have it all the time, which is exactly what you want. Beastmaster, his Hawk doesn't block neutral camps. I don't know why it doesn't block neutral camps. I think that's kind of egregious, to be honest with you. But, okay. It just kind of really weakens his ability to, like, throw a Hawk and try to block camps on the enemy cores and make some kind of a worse offlaner. His talent for board damage went down too, just to bring him, I guess, to a fair spot. He's still a good hero, but it definitely hurt him. Centaur Retaliate does less, 2 less at all levels percentage damage. No, Substick, if only. The reason this matters a lot is because it's percentage based, and it's also per charge, so this starts stacking up, obviously, to 13. Yeah, 13. So 13 times 2 is a 26% difference if he had max stacks. So this is a very big difference in Centaur's ability to right-click you. He's still gonna hurt. That means if Centaur tries to go for, like, a right-click strat versus, like, a tanky initiator strat, then he's gonna do a lot less damage when he gets, like, a Daedalus or something. Because that reduction in damage, when it's multiplied, matters even more. Clockwork's strength gain was reduced by 0.2. It's not a big change, but just make Clockwork a little bit easier to kill for the enemies. Death Prophet got nerfed heavily. Base damage reduced by 2, making it harder for her to harass, harder for her to last hit, harder for her to deny. Kills are harder to get right around that, early game. Spirit Siphon mana cost was increased by 10. It's minor. She has so much mana, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice. Exorcism Scepter damage multiplier was reduced, making it do less damage when she hits you with a spell or right-clicks you. Which is nice, honestly. It's nice to see they're doing less damage. So this is a nice change. Huskar, his Berserker Blood attack speed was reduced 10 at all levels. Just a nice way for Huskar not to full heal off of like a Morbid Mask and kill you. He attacks a little slower, so it's harder for him to heal past the damage that you might be dealing him. And his Burning Spear's talent at 15 also got nerfed, so that's nice. Caudle, this is a big nerf. Chakra Magic cooldown reduction went down by 1. This means that when you use it on one of your allies, it doesn't reduce their cooldowns as much, making it harder for him to get spells back up. Also harder for himself to get spells back up. It's painful. I'm not gonna lie. And the Will-O-Wisp AoE at 20, which honestly was just better than the Chakra Magic in almost every circumstance, got nerfed by 50. Which really stinks. I think it was needed because Will-O-Wisp is too big with the increase of AoE, but still, it's a painful day to be Caudle. Lycan shapeshift cooldown was increased dramatically, 15 seconds at level 1. It's actually 15 at all levels. Making it much harder for Lycan to use shapeshift during those key pivotal fights, de-initiating, initiating, pushing, whatever the case may be, so it's easier to catch Lycan out. So he can't put the pressure on as much, which is a very big deal when you talk about Lycan. Meepo got a base agility reduced by 7. His base damage and armor are unchanged, but this means he suffers the attack speed and the move speed. And any agility-based things such as E-Blade, note, is based off agility, so that'll reduce that as well. You don't have to kill it, Substick. You could just walk out. That's usually what you do. You only kill it if you don't have the option to walk out because they have heavy CC or something. But you should just be able to walk out, because if you have like a Force Staff, you just push yourself out. If you have like a Glimmer Cape, you just glimmer. It doesn't reveal you, so you just stay there. Which is a pretty big deal. I like this change a lot because the lower movement speed and the lower attack speed mean Meepo can't chase and kill you as easily. Plus, the E-Blade will do less damage, which is super awesome. Divided We Stand now takes longer to get 1 level at his first 2. It's the same at 18, but it means it'll be harder to get multiple Meepos, meaning he's more vulnerable earlier in the game, and it takes longer for him to ramp up because he needs multiple Meepos to farm different spots on the map. So they're really nerfing that Meepo, like, you know, nonsense, which usually you see in Smurfs, to be honest. It's going to be much harder for a Smurf to carry the game because it takes longer for him to get online. Makes it harder to last hit, too. Losing 7 attack speed is a big deal for last hitting. You really do just walk away, like I promise. It's not a big deal. It's only a big deal when they have other CC to go with it. Like if they have other stuns, which they should, then it's a problem. But granted, you can't hit the cuddle ult if you're stunned anyway. It's kind of a hard situation. You just need support items. You need Force Staffs and you need Glimmers, and you need to not stand on top of each other. If you're not staying on top of each other and you guys have like a Force Staff and Glimmer Cape on your team, you'll be fine. Base agility reduced by 3 on Phantom Lancer. This is a big deal. Attack speed, half an armor, 3 attack speed, 3 damage, a little bit of move speed. It's really going to hurt Phantom Lancer's laning because of his last thing's okay, but it's not amazing. It's going to hurt his ability to last hit under tower especially. It's a big deal. Almost done. Phoenix Fire Spirit damage was reduced by 5 at all levels, and the talent got reduced by 5 as well. So if he goes to the DPS at 15, he's now lost 10. 10 damage to his Fire Spirits, and since it's a tick. No, as Chaos Knight, you should have BKB, man. You just BKB and you're fine. I mean, like, that's just it. You can also dodge the pulses if you have a Manta like you should, because Manta's core on Chaos Knight. You just Manta at the exact moment it's about to pulse, and you'll be invulnerable, and you'll dodge. You'll dodge part of the pulse. Not all of it, but part of it. So you'll be less able to be moved on. BKB is the answer, though. The reason this matters is because the damage is per second, and it lasts for 4 and up to 16 seconds. No, BKB is the item you buy. So basically what happens is there's 16 ticks of this damage, maximum granted. That requires a very good Phoenix. But 16 ticks of damage. So at a reduction of 5 times 16 is 90. So that's 9. This is a 90 damage nerf. And of course, times 2, because if you do have to take the talent, it's 180 damage nerf. So it's actually a really big deal. It doesn't look like a lot on paper when you just see like, oh look, it's a 5 damage nerf. But when you actually look at the amount of damage it does, it's gigantic. This is a huge nerf to Phoenix. Fire Snap Cookie damage was reduced. This is because Fire Snap Cookie's cooldown going down as you level it, and the range that it has, it's so fast that you can just get guaranteed damage on people in lane. So reducing the early game damage, especially, it's 20 at all levels, but the early game damage is very important. Yeah, I will. I'm gonna restart the stream in like 2 minutes. This is a big deal. It just hurts Snapfire's like combo, because what she would do is she would poke at you, Snapfire Cookie into you, immediately Q you, and then chase you. So this is a really big nerf to that. Wraith King base damage nerf of 5. Sorry, 5. Why did I say 5? 2. And the 2 matters because his crit is 300%, so that's actually 6 if he crits you. So, like, I know it's weird to say, like, oh, the damage matters more if a character comes with crit or regularly builds crit, but it does. Like, if it's part of the strategy, then it comes up often. So the fact that he has a 2 damage nerf and then might crit you for 300%, but that's 6 less damage, it matters. And granted, armor does, you know, in all these changes, armor matters, but still. So it's harder for him to last hit, but he's still an okay last hitter. It's harder for him to kill you. The Mortal Strike skeleton duration was reduced by 30, making it much harder to use skeletons to push effectively. They're still good at farming the jungle, but obviously you can't control them without stuns, so it's not really a huge thing. I just find Wraith King to be much less effective than it used to be. Like, I never really fear a Wraith King. I just don't like Wraith King. He definitely can be something more like a third position, in theory, if he goes for, like, a quick, like, he's just fighting and he's in your face, because he buys that stun when he dies talent, which is, and I see it actually. It's 20, right? No, it's 25. For the late game, he gets to be really scary, because whenever he goes down the first time, he stuns the whole team that's near him. But in general, if that's the case, you just kind of go for like a split pushing, get in the fight, Wraith King, and that's a different build. So, either way, main takeaways from this patch are going to be a lot harder to sustain with items. You're going to have to sustain with more regen. The reason why this is great, in my opinion, is that people aren't buying regen in lane. They're buying a single stack of tangos and then rushing a ring, rushing soul ring, rushing headdress, and that's all they do. Now that you're going to see a lot of these nerfs coming through, it's going to be harder and harder for that to sustain effectively, and then that means the harass that you're putting through by doing the right thing, and I say right thing meaning like it's right now. Obviously, if people can get away with it, then it's the right thing, but in general, you know, we should be punishing these strategies now that they're even weaker by buying a sufficient amount of regen, like lots of tangos, a salve, whatever, and punishing it. Now, granted, a lot of higher level players could get away with just a stack of 3 tangos. But I've always told people who are lower MMR, don't do that. Just because they can do it doesn't mean you can do it. So I'm glad this is nerfed, because now I can tell them even more. Really, don't just buy this. Like, you can't just start with a headdress. You have to buy actual regen. Like, I'm going to punish the crap out of anybody who just buys a straight headdress and no regen. Because the fact that it does 0.5 less per second is 30 less health per minute. So, like, that's just such a big deal. Like, I'm just going to hit the crap out of you. It's been nerfed so many times. Alright, so I'm going to stop the stream and restart it in about 3.5 minutes. The reason why is I have to pee, so I know I'm going to have to run up there and pee and come back down. But I will be playing a game, so I'm going to try to invite some people if they are on. If you guys want to play, then just get on DotA. When I get back, I'll just start inviting people in mass. So for those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Those of you on Twitch, I'll be right back.